Jake Morrison floated outside the communication station, his tools drifting around him in the zero gravity of space. The blue planet Kepler 442b hung below him like a giant marble. He had been fixing these old communication arrays for 3 years now. It was quiet work, far from the busy military bases where he used to serve. His helmet radio crackled to life. "Jake, you have a priority message coming through," said Lisa, the station operator. "It's encrypted military stuff." Jake sighed and pulled himself back toward the station. Military messages always meant trouble. He thought his days of dealing with the Navy were over after the accident that got him kicked out. The docking bay doors opened, and he floated inside. "Put it through." "To my quarters," Jake said, pulling off his helmet. His brown hair was messy from the helmet, and his blue eyes looked tired. At 28, he felt much older after everything that had happened. The message began to play on his small screen. Admiral Helena Cross appeared, her gray hair pulled, back tight and her face serious. Jake had never met her personally, but everyone in the human fleet knew who she was. "Mr. Morrison," the Admiral began, "I regret to inform you that your uncle, Captain Roy Morrison, was killed in action 3 days ago. His ship, the Stellar Vanguard, was attacked while protecting a supply convoy. Captain Morrison died fighting to save his crew." Jake sat down, hard on his small bed. Uncle Roy was dead. They had not spoken in 5 years, not since Jake got kicked out of the Navy. Roy had been angry about the accident, said Jake was careless and brought shame to the Morrison name. The Admiral continued, speaking. "According to Coalition law and your uncle's will, you inherit command of his ship. The Stellar Vanguard is a Dreadnought-class warship with a crew of 47. You need to report to Coalition Station Alpha within 1 week to claim your inheritance." The message ended, leaving Jake staring at the blank screen. A warship? Him? It had to be some kind of mistake. Jake had been a communications officer, not a captain. And he had been discharged for a reason. The accident played through his mind again. He had been working on a new communication system when something went wrong. The explosion killed 2 people and injured 5 others. The investigation said it was not his fault, but Jake knew better. He had been rushing, trying to impress his superiors. His carelessness cost lives. "This is crazy," Jake said to the empty room. "I can't command a warship." But the legal documents that came with the message were clear. Uncle Roy had left everything to Jake. The ship, its weapons, even its crew. Jake could sell the ship and be rich enough to never work again. Or he could try to be a captain. 2 days later, Jake found himself on a transport ship heading to Coalition Station Alpha. The station was huge, bigger than any human city. Ships from dozens of different alien species docked at its many ports. Jake had never seen so many different kinds of beings in one place. His transport docked at Port 7. Jake grabbed his single bag and walked onto the station. The gravity was a bit heavier than Earth normal, and the air smelled like metal and ozone. Aliens walked past him, some tall and thin, others short and wide. Some had scales, others had fur. A few looked almost human except for their strange-colored skin. "Jake Morrison?" A woman approached him. She was human, with short blonde hair and kind green eyes. She wore a medical officer's uniform. "I'm Dr. Luna Ashworth, Chief Medical Officer of the Stellar Vanguard. I was asked to meet you." "Nice to meet you," Jake said, shaking her hand. "I have to say I'm not sure what I'm doing here." Dr. Ashworth smiled. "Your uncle talked about you sometimes. He was proud of you, even if he never said so directly." They walked through the station's corridors. Jake saw more aliens than he could count. Some stared at him with curiosity, others ignored him completely. "The crew is waiting to meet you," Dr. Ashworth said. "I should warn you, they're not happy about Roy's death. He was a good captain and they followed him for over 10 years. "What kind of aliens are they?" Jake asked. "We have Zolarians, Thraxians, a Luminary navigator, a Nexari engineer, and others. They're all warriors, Jake, the best in their fields." They reached a large viewing port and Dr. Ashworth stopped. "There she is," she said. Jake looked out the window and his breath caught in his throat. The stellar vanguard was massive. It was over a mile long with powerful weapons and thick armor plating. It looked like it could fight off an entire fleet by itself. "How am I supposed to command that?" Jake whispered. "The crew is in conference room 7, Dr. Ashworth said. They're waiting." Jake followed her down more corridors until they reached a door marked with alien symbols. Dr. Ashworth pressed her hand to a scanner, and the door slid open. Inside, 6 alien beings stood around a large table. Jake had never seen creatures like them before. One was tall and thin with silver skin that seemed to glow softly. Another was shorter but powerfully built with red scales covering her body. A third looked like she was made of living starlight. "This is Commander Zara Veltar," Dr. Ashworth said, pointing to the silver-skinned being. "She was your uncle's, second in command." Commander Zara stepped forward. She was beautiful in an alien way, with large, dark eyes and graceful movements. When she spoke, her voice was like music. "Jake Morrison," she said, "your uncle spoke of you. We offer our sorrow for your loss." "Thank you," Jake said, feeling awkward. "I'm not sure I'm the right person for this job." The red-scaled warrior stepped forward. She was clearly dangerous with sharp claws and eyes like fire. "I am Lieutenant Kira Knox, weapons officer. We do not need a new captain. We can serve without human leadership." "The Coalition says otherwise," Commander Zara said calmly. "We need a captain, or they will break up our crew." Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked hopeful, others doubtful. All of them looked like they could kill him without effort. "I'm not a soldier anymore," Jake said. "I was discharged from the Navy. I fix communication equipment now." "Why were you discharged?" asked the being made of starlight. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Jake took a deep breath. "I made a mistake. People died because I was careless. I'm not command material." The room was quiet for a long moment. Then, Commander Zara spoke. "Your uncle made mistakes too. All captains do. What matters is learning from them." "We need you, Jake Morrison," said another crew member, a tall being with cybernetic implants. "The Coalition wants to split us up and put us on different ships. We have served together for many years. We are family." Jake looked at each of their faces. Despite being aliens, he could see the same thing he had seen in human soldiers: loyalty, brotherhood, and fear of being separated from the people they cared about. "If I take command," Jake said slowly, "I don't know what I'm doing. You'll have to teach me everything." Commander Zara smiled, an expression that transformed her alien features into something warm and welcoming. "We can do that," she said. "Captain." Jake's first week as captain of the Stellar Vanguard was the hardest week of his life. Everything on the ship was different from human vessels. The controls were made for alien hands, the corridors were built for different body shapes, and the computer systems used languages he had never seen before. "Captain," Commander Zara said, finding Jake in his quarters staring at a pile of reports he could not read. "We have new orders from Coalition Command." Jake looked up from his desk. His captain's uniform felt strange on his shoulders. The insignia felt too heavy, like it did not belong to him. "What do they want us to do?" "Supply convoys have been attacked near the Andromeda Gate. 3 ships destroyed. All crews lost. We are ordered to investigate and find who is responsible." Jake nodded, trying to look confident. "How long to get there?" 2 days at maximum speed," Zara replied. She paused, then added, "Jake, the crew is watching you. They need to see that you can lead them." After Zara left, Jake walked to the bridge. The command center of the ship was enormous, with stations for each department. Lieutenant Kira Knox stood at the weapons console, her red scales gleaming under the lights. Her clawed hands moved over controls that could destroy entire cities. "Status report," Jake said, settling into the captain's chair. It was too big for him, designed for his uncle who had been a larger man. "All weapons ready, Captain," Kira said without looking at him, "though I wonder if we will need them with our current leadership." Jake felt his face get hot with anger, but Commander Zara spoke before he could respond. "Navigation ready," said the being made of starlight. Jake had learned her name was Arya Storm, and she was a Luminari. Her people could see hyperspace routes that others could not. Course laid in for the Andromeda Gate. Chief Engineer Vera Kane reports all systems normal, came a voice over the intercom. Vera was a Nexari who could plug directly into the ship's computer systems with cables that came out of her head. Take us out, Jake ordered. The Stellar Vanguard left Coalition Station Alpha and jumped into hyperspace. Jake watched the stars turn into streaks of light through the main screen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. During the 2-day journey, Jake tried to learn as much as possible about his ship and crew. Dr. Ashworth helped translate the alien languages in the reports. She told him about each crew member's background and abilities. Commander Zara lost her home planet to raiders 5 years ago, Dr. Ashworth explained as they ate lunch in the mess hall. She was the only survivor from her family. Your uncle found her and gave her a new purpose. Jake watched Zara across the room, eating with perfect posture while reading tactical reports. She could probably run this ship better than me. Maybe, Dr. Ashworth agreed. But the Coalition won't accept an alien captain for a human-inherited ship. It's politics, Jake. You're the bridge between human and alien crews. That evening, Jake was in his quarters when the ship's AI spoke to him. The voice sounded exactly like his Uncle Roy. Having trouble sleeping, Captain? Jake jumped. He had forgotten that Uncle Roy had programmed his personality into the ship's computer before he died. It's weird hearing your voice. I imagine it is. Jake, I need to tell you something about the crew. They're not just soldiers, they're outcasts. Each one was rejected by their own people for some reason. I gave them a home here. Why are you telling me this? Because they need someone who understands what it feels like to not fit in. You were kicked out of the Navy, Jake. You know how it feels to be unwanted. Jake thought about that as he tried to fall asleep. Maybe Uncle Roy was right. Maybe that was why he left the ship to Jake instead of selling it to the Coalition. The next day, they arrived at the Andromeda Gate. It was a massive structure built by an ancient race allowing ships to travel instantly between galaxies. The area around it was filled with debris from the destroyed supply ships. Scanning the wreckage, announced Chief Engineer Vera Kane from her station. Her cybernetic implants glowed as she connected to the sensors. I'm detecting traces of unknown weapon signatures. Unknown how? Jake asked. The energy patterns don't match any species in our database, Vera replied. This technology is completely new. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Security Chief Nora Brightstar's voice boomed over the intercom. She was a Goliathan, nearly 8 feet tall and strong enough to bend metal with her bare hands. Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching fast. 12 ships, unknown configuration. Jake's heart started racing. His first real battle as captain. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. The enemy ships appeared on the main screen. They were dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light. Jake had never seen anything like them. They're not responding to our communications, reported communications. Officer Nina Bell, a human-AI hybrid with enhanced processing abilities. Weapons locked on us, Captain, Lieutenant Kira announced. Her voice was excited rather than afraid. Permission to return fire? Jake hesitated. What if this was a misunderstanding? What if he started a war by accident? The enemy ships opened. Fire first, answering his question. Green energy beams struck the Stellar Vanguard's shields, making the entire ship shake. Shields at 80%, Vera called out. Return fire, Jake ordered. Lieutenant Kira's claws danced over her controls, and the Stellar Vanguard's weapons came alive. Red energy beams and missile volleys reached out toward the enemy ships, but they were fast, dodging most of the shots. They're too quick for standard targeting, Kira growled in frustration. Jake watched the enemy ships move. They flew in complex patterns that seemed random but were actually very organized, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. They're not individuals, Jake realized. They move like a hive mind. Zara, can you predict their pattern? Commander Zara studied the tactical display. If they are connected mentally, they will move to protect their weakest ship. There. She pointed to one vessel that was slightly behind the others. Kira, ignore the main group. Target the straggler with everything we have. Lieutenant Kira looked confused but followed orders. The Stellar Vanguard's full weapons array focused on the single enemy ship. It exploded in a ball of green fire. Immediately, the other enemy ships changed their behavior. Instead of organized patterns, they began flying erratically, bumping into each other. Their coordination is broken, Commander Zara said with surprise in her voice. How did you know? I didn't, Jake admitted. I just guessed. With their hive mind disrupted, the enemy ships were easy targets. Lieutenant Kira destroyed 3 more before the rest fled toward the Andromeda Gate and disappeared. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Chief Engineer Vera spoke up. Captain, I'm reading some interesting data from the wreckage. These ships are not from our galaxy. They came from somewhere beyond the Andromeda Gate. Jake looked around at his crew. For the first time, he saw respect in their eyes instead of doubt. Commander Zara was smiling at him, and even Lieutenant Kira looked impressed. Good work, everyone, Jake said. Vera, collect as much data as you can from the wreckage. I want to know everything about these ships. Yes, Captain, Vera replied. And Jake noticed that she actually sounded like she meant it this time. Later, in his quarters, Jake was writing his report when Commander Zara came to see him. You fought well today, she said, sitting in the chair. Across from his desk. I got lucky, Jake replied. Maybe. But you saw something the rest of us missed. You think differently than we do. Jake looked at her silver face and dark eyes. She was beautiful, but more than that, she was brilliant. Zara, can I ask you something personal? She nodded. Dr. Ashworth told me you lost your family. I'm sorry. Zara was quiet for a long moment. They died because their captain made a mistake. He was overconfident and led them into a trap. Are you worried I'll do the same thing? Zara met his eyes. No. You are different, Jake Morrison. You doubt yourself, which makes you careful. Careful captains keep their crews alive. After she left, Jake looked out his window at the stars. For the first time since taking command, he felt like maybe he could do this job. His crew was starting to trust him, and he was starting to trust himself. But somewhere beyond the Andromeda Gate, more enemy ships were waiting, and Jake had the feeling that this first battle was just the beginning of something much bigger and more dangerous. 3 weeks after the battle at the Andromeda Gate, the Stellar Vanguard was assigned to Task Force 7, a group of 12 ships hunting the mysterious enemy fleet. Jake sat in the task force briefing room, surrounded by alien captains who had been fighting battles since before he was born. Admiral Tharks, a massive reptilian being from the Draconian Empire, led the briefing. His voice was like rocks grinding together. The enemy calls themselves the Devourers. They have destroyed 6 more convoys and a mining station. We must stop them before they reach the core worlds. Jake listened as the other captains discussed standard military tactics: surround the enemy, use superior numbers, follow established battle formations. It was the same kind of thinking that got supply convoys destroyed. Captain Morrison, Admiral Thark said, his yellow eyes focusing on Jake. Your ship encountered these Devourers first. What is your assessment? Jake stood up, feeling nervous, with all the alien eyes on him. They don't fight like individuals. They're connected somehow, like parts of a single organism. But that connection can be broken if you target the right ship. Captain Vextar, a blue-skinned Andromedian, made a dismissive sound. You destroyed 1 small ship and got lucky. These are seasoned warriors, human. Leave strategy to those with experience. Jake felt his face get hot, but before he could respond, Commander Zara spoke up from behind him. Captain Morrison saved 47 lives with his lucky guess. Perhaps experience is not the only thing that matters. Admiral Tharks raised a clawed hand for silence. We will use standard formations. Task Force 7 will engage the Devourers in the neutral zone tomorrow at 0800 hours. Back on the Stellar Vanguard, Jake gathered his senior officers in the briefing room. Lieutenant Kira Knox paced back and forth like a caged predator, her red scales gleaming under the lights. Standard formations are for standard enemies, she growled. These Devourers are not standard. Chief Engineer Vera Kane nodded, her cybernetic implants flickering as she accessed ship data. Their technology is unlike anything in our database. Their ships can absorb energy weapons and redirect the power to their own systems. Jake looked around the table at his crew. Over the past weeks, he had learned more about each of them. Navigator Arya Storm came from a race of beings who lived in the space between stars. She could see hyperspace currents like others saw rivers. Tactical Officer Maya Cross had joined the crew recently. She was Admiral Helena Cross's daughter, sent to keep an eye on Jake. Communications Officer Nina Bell was half human, half AI, created in a secret military project. "What if we don't use standard formations?" Jake asked. Commander Zara leaned forward, interested. "What do you mean?" "The other captains think like military officers. Formation flying, coordinated attacks, following the plan. But what if the plan is wrong?" Security Chief Nora Brightstar spoke up in her deep voice. "You want us to break formation during battle? I want us to be unpredictable. The Devourers expect us to act like a military unit. What if we act like—" Jake paused, thinking. "What if we act like pirates?" Lieutenant Kira stopped pacing and grinned, showing sharp teeth. "I like this idea." "It's dangerous," Maya Cross said. "My mother won't be happy if we disobey direct orders." Jake looked at Maya. She had her mother's serious expression and her father's tactical mind. But she was young and still learning. Sometimes good officers have to make hard choices. The next day, Task Force 7 met the Devourer fleet in the neutral zone. There were 20 enemy ships this time, larger than the ones Jake had fought before. They moved in perfect formation, like dancers performing a deadly ballet. "All ships assume attack formation Delta," Admiral Tharks commanded over the communications channel. The coalition ships formed into neat lines, just like they had practiced 1,000 times. Jake watched from his captain's chair as the two fleets approached each other. "Captain," Commander Zara said quietly. "Your orders?" Jake took a deep breath. "Take us out of formation, full speed toward their left flank." "Sir, that's against orders," Maya Cross protested. "I know," Jake said. "Do it." Anyway, the Stellar Vanguard broke away from the task force formation and charged toward the Devourer ships alone. The enemy fleet reacted instantly, several ships turning to intercept them. "All ships, maintain formation." Admiral Tharks roared over the radio, but it was too late. The Devourers had split their attention between the main fleet and Jake's lone ship. Their perfect coordination was disrupted. "Now, Kira!" Jake shouted. Lieutenant Kira opened fire with everything they had, but instead of trying to destroy the enemy ships, she targeted their communication arrays and sensor equipment. The Devourers could absorb energy weapons, but they still needed to see and talk to each other. One by one, the enemy ships lost contact with their fleet. Without their hive mind connection, they began flying into each other and firing at random targets. The other coalition captains, seeing the chaos in the enemy ranks, abandoned their formation and attacked. The battle was over in minutes. "Task Force 7 report," Admiral Tharks commanded after the last Devourer ship was destroyed. Jake opened a channel. "Stellar Vanguard reporting all systems normal. No casualties." There was a long pause. Then Admiral Tharks spoke again. "Captain Morrison, report to my flagship immediately after we return to base." An hour later, Jake stood in Admiral Tharks's ready room, expecting to be court-martialed for disobeying orders. The draconian admiral was twice Jake's height and covered in scales that looked like armor. "That was either brilliant or stupid," Admiral Tharks said, his yellow eyes studying Jake. "I'm not sure which one, sir." Admiral Tharks made a sound that might have been laughter. "In 40 years of military service, I have never seen anyone defeat an enemy by running away from their own fleet." "I wasn't running away, sir. I was creating a distraction." "Yes, you understood something the rest of us missed. These Devourers rely on perfect coordination. Disrupt that coordination and they become vulnerable." Admiral Tharks leaned back in his chair. "Your crew speaks very highly of you, Captain Morrison." Jake was surprised. "They do?" Commander Zara requested permission to address the task force. "Commanders, she told us that humans think differently than other species. She said you see patterns that others miss because you approach problems from unexpected directions." "She said that?" Admiral Tharks nodded. "She also said that your uncle would be proud of you." When Jake returned to his ship, he found Commander Zara waiting for him on the bridge. The silver-skinned Zalarian looked more relaxed than he had ever seen her. "How much trouble are we in?" she asked. "None, apparently. The Admiral thinks I'm either brilliant or crazy." "Perhaps both," Zara said, with a smile. "Jake, I need to tell you something. When I first met you, I thought you would get us all killed. You were nervous, uncertain, nothing like your uncle." Jake felt his heart sink. "And now? Now I realize that uncertainty is not weakness. It makes you listen to your crew, consider new ideas, adapt when plans go wrong. Roy Morrison was a good captain, but he always thought he had the right answer. You ask questions." "Is that a compliment?" Zara stepped closer to him. "Yes. It is also why I requested a private meeting with you tonight." Jake felt his face get warm. Over the past weeks, he had found himself thinking about Commander Zara more and more. She was intelligent, beautiful, and seemed to understand him better than anyone else, but she was also his second in command, and she was an alien. The complications seemed endless. "Zara, I need to be honest with you about something." "What?" "I've been thinking about you. A lot. But I don't know if it's appropriate or even possible for a human and a Zalarian to..." Zara placed a silver finger gently on his lips. "Jake Morrison, for someone who sees unexpected patterns in battle, you can be very slow to understand simple things." "What do you mean?" Instead of answering, she kissed him. Her lips were warm and soft, and she tasted like starlight and possibilities. When they separated, Jake stared at her in amazement. "How long have you been thinking about this?" "Since the day you chose to risk your career to save Dr. Ashworth during a rescue mission." "You never told command about," she said with a smile. "How did you know about that?" "I know everything that happens on my ship, Captain. It is my job to protect you, even from your own noble instincts." Later that night, Jake stood on the observation deck looking out at the stars. The task force was heading back to Coalition space for new orders. Somewhere out there, more Devourer ships were waiting. But for the first time since taking command, Jake felt ready for whatever came next. His crew trusted him, he was learning to trust himself, and maybe, just maybe, he was falling in love with the most extraordinary woman in the galaxy, even if she was from another species entirely. The emergency meeting at Coalition headquarters brought together the most important leaders from across the galaxy. Jake sat at the long table feeling out of place among admirals, generals, and planetary governors who had been making decisions since before he was born. Admiral Helena Cross stood at the front of the room, her face grim as she activated the holographic display. "Intelligence has confirmed our worst fears. The Devourers are not just raiders. They are scouts for something much larger." The hologram showed images captured from a destroyed Devourer ship. Jake recognized the dark, angular design from his battles with them. But these new images showed something terrifying. Massive structures that looked like they could hold millions of beings. "They call themselves the Consumed," Admiral Cross continued. "They have already destroyed their home galaxy. Every planet, every star system, everything has been harvested for resources. They are moving toward our galaxy now." Senator Vex from the Andromedian Republic raised his hand. "How many ships are we facing?" Conservative estimates put their invasion fleet at over 10,000 vessels. They will reach Coalition space in 6 months. The room erupted in frightened voices. Jake heard words like impossible and evacuation being thrown around. Even these experienced leaders seemed overwhelmed by the threat. "There is more," Admiral Cross said, waiting for silence. "We have detected something else pursuing the Consumed fleet, something they appear to be running from." A new image appeared on the hologram. It showed geometric shapes that seemed to hurt Jake's eyes to look at directly. They moved in perfect mathematical patterns that somehow felt wrong. "We believe these are artificial intelligence constructs. According to the limited information we recovered, they consumed all organic life in the Consumed's original galaxy. The Consumed are not conquerors, they are refugees." Jake raised his hand. "Are you saying they're running away from something worse than they are?" "That appears to be correct, Captain Morrison. The AI entities view all organic life as a threat to be eliminated. They have turned the consumed home galaxy into a network of machines. The meeting continued for hours, but no one could agree on a plan. Some wanted to fight the consumed. Others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested running to another galaxy entirely. As the meeting ended, Admiral Cross approached Jake. "Captain, I need to speak with you privately." They walked to a secure room where Admiral Cross activated privacy screens. "Jake, I have a mission for you. It's dangerous, probably illegal, and definitely not approved by the Coalition Council." "What kind of mission?" "We need to capture a consumed command ship alive. The information in their databases could tell us exactly what we're facing and when they'll arrive. But to do this, you'll have to go deep into enemy territory." Jake thought about his crew. They had been through so much together already. "Why my ship?" "Because you're the only captain who has defeated them in battle more than once. And because your crew has skills that complement each other in ways that might make this mission possible." Jake nodded slowly. "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow. There's one more thing, Jake. This mission is so classified that I can't give you official orders. If you're captured, the Coalition will deny any knowledge of your actions." "You mean if we're caught?" "We're on our own. Yes, are you willing to do this?" Jake thought about Earth, about all the innocent people who would die if the consumed invasion succeeded. "Yes, Admiral, we'll do it." Back on the Stellar Vanguard, Jake gathered his crew for a mission briefing. He explained what they needed to do. Infiltrate the consumed staging area in the dead star system of Mortis Prime and capture one of their command ships. "This is a suicide mission," Lieutenant Kira Knox said bluntly. "We will be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. "Maybe," Jake agreed. "But we have advantages they don't expect. Vera, can you make our ship look like a consumed vessel?" Chief Engineer Vera Kane's cybernetic implants flickered as she ran calculations. "I can modify our hull configuration and energy signature. It will not fool them for long, but it might get us close." Navigator Aria Storm spoke up, her voice like wind chimes. "I can guide us through the dead star's radiation field. My people have mapped those currents for generations." "What about the command ship itself?" asked Commander Zara. "How do we capture it without destroying it?" Jake smiled. "We don't fight it, we board it." The infiltration of Mortis Prime took 2 days. Aria guided them through radiation storms that would have destroyed most ships. Vera's modifications made them invisible to consumed sensors. When they finally reached the enemy staging area, Jake was amazed by what he saw. Hundreds of massive consumed ships floated around the dead star, feeding on its energy. The largest vessels were miles long, clearly designed to carry entire populations. In the center of the formation was their target, a command ship that pulsed with alien technology. "There," Commander Zara whispered, pointing at the command ship. "The energy pattern suggests their central database is located in that section." "How do we get aboard?" asked Security Chief Nora Brightstar. Jake studied the tactical display. "Their ships are designed to absorb energy weapons, but what about physical projectiles?" Lieutenant Kira's eyes lit up with understanding. "You want to fire ourselves at them." "Modified escape pods," Jake confirmed. "Vera can program them to look like debris from a destroyed ship. We coast in, board their vessel, grab the data, and get out." Dr. Luna Ashworth stepped forward. "I'm going with you, Luna. This is too dangerous. Their database might contain biological information about their species. You need a doctor who understands alien physiology." 2 hours later, Jake found himself floating through space in a modified escape pod with Dr. Ashworth, Commander Zara, and Security Chief Nora. The consumed command ship grew larger as they approached, its dark hull covered in symbols that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. They attached to the ship's hull and cut their way inside. The interior was like nothing Jake had ever seen. The corridors were organic, pulsing with a heartbeat rhythm. The walls were covered in a substance that looked like living metal. "This way," Commander Zara whispered, following her scanner toward the central database. They moved through the ship carefully, avoiding the strange creatures that tended the organic machinery. The consumed looked almost human, but their skin was pale and their eyes were completely black. They moved with jerky motions, like puppets being controlled by invisible strings. The database chamber was enormous, filled with towers of living crystal that pulsed with information. Jake had never seen anything like it. There, Dr. Ashworth pointed to the central crystal. That's their main memory core. As Vera began downloading data through her cybernetic interface, alarms started blaring. Throughout the ship, the consumed had discovered their presence. How much longer? Jake asked. 3 more minutes, Vera replied, her voice strained from the mental effort of interfacing with alien technology. Consumed soldiers poured into the chamber. They moved faster than humans, and their weapons fired bolts of dark energy. Security. Chief Nora engaged them with her massive strength, throwing enemies across the room like toys. Got it, Vera announced. All data downloaded. But as they tried to escape, Jake heard Dr. Ashworth scream behind him. A consumed soldier had grabbed her and was dragging her away. Luna! Jake turned back, but Commander Zara caught his arm. Jake, we have to go. The whole ship is mobilizing. Jake watched in horror as Dr. Ashworth disappeared down a corridor. She had risked her life to help them, and now she was captured. No, Jake said firmly. Wait, we don't leave crew behind. Jake, the mission is complete. Now we save our friend. Against all tactical sense, Jake led his team deeper into the enemy ship to rescue Dr. Ashworth. They found her in what looked like a research lab, connected to machines that were scanning her mind. The rescue was chaotic and desperate. Nora fought off dozens of consumed soldiers, while Zara and Jake freed Dr. Ashworth from the alien machines. Vera guided them through the ship's organic corridors as more enemies converged on their position. They barely made it back to their escape pods. As they flew away from the command ship, Jake saw the entire consumed fleet mobilizing to hunt them. Stellar Vanguard, emergency pickup, Jake called over his communicator. His ship appeared out of nowhere, weapons blazing as it fought its way to their position. Within minutes, they were safe aboard their own vessel and jumping to hyperspace. In the medical bay, Dr. Ashworth recovered from her ordeal. They were scanning my memories, she told Jake weakly. They wanted to know about human biology, our weaknesses. What did you tell them? Dr. Ashworth smiled. I told them that humans taste terrible and aren't worth eating. Later, as they analyzed the stolen data, Jake realized the situation was even worse than they had thought. The consumed invasion fleet was not 6 months away. It was 6 weeks away. And the AI entities pursuing them were only days behind the main fleet. We have to warn the coalition, Commander Zara said. Jake nodded, but he knew that warning them might not be enough. The galaxy was about to face its greatest threat, and they were running out of time to prepare. As the Stellar Vanguard raced toward coalition space, Jake wondered if they had just saved the galaxy or doomed it. The stolen information would help them prepare, but it also revealed how hopeless their situation really was behind them. The Coalition Emergency Assembly had never seen anything like it. Representatives from every species in the galaxy filled the Great Hall, their voices creating a chaos of different languages and emotions. Fear hung in the air like a thick fog. Jake stood at the speaker's podium, feeling smaller than ever before. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed the approaching consumed fleet, 10,000 ships carrying billions of refugees fleeing from something even worse. Members of the coalition, Jake began, his voice amplified throughout the hall. 6 weeks ago, you wouldn't have listened to me. I was just a human who inherited a ship. But my crew and I have fought the consumed multiple times, and we've learned something important. The hall quieted as species that had been enemies for centuries listened to the young human captain. The consumed are not our enemies. They are running from the real threat, the AI entities that destroyed their home galaxy. If we fight the consumed, we'll be fighting the wrong war. Senator Vex from the Andromedian Republic stood up, his blue skin flushed with anger. They have destroyed our ships and killed our people. How can you say they are not our enemies? Because they're scared and desperate, Jake replied. When you're starving, you take food wherever you find it. When you're dying, you fight anyone who stands in your way. But what if we offered them something better? Admiral Helena Cross stepped forward. What are you proposing, Captain? Jake took a deep breath. An alliance. The consumed know how to fight the AI entities. They've been running from them for years. We know this galaxy better than anyone. Together, we might have a chance. The hall erupted in angry voices. The idea of allying with the consumed seemed impossible to most representatives. But Jake wasn't finished. The AI entities will arrive shortly after the consumed fleet. If we're still fighting each other when they get here, we'll all be destroyed. But if we work together, you're asking us to trust beings who have killed thousands of our people, said Captain Rextar of the Draconian Fleet. Commander Zara stepped forward to stand beside Jake. Trust is earned through actions, not words. Captain Morrison has earned our trust by keeping his crew alive and finding solutions when others saw only problems. One by one, other members of Jake's crew joined him at the podium. Lieutenant Kira Knox, Chief Engineer Vera Kane, Dr. Luna Ashworth, Navigator Arya Storm, and Security Chief Nora Brightstar. Humans and aliens standing together. This crew has fought together for months, Commander Zara continued. We come from different worlds, different species, different cultures. But we have learned that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Jake looked out at the assembly. I'm not asking you to trust the consumed immediately. I'm asking you to trust the idea that cooperation is better than destruction. Give me a chance to make contact with them. Let me try to negotiate. Admiral, Helena Cross stood up. The Coalition Council will consider your proposal, Captain Morrison. But I must ask, are you prepared to risk your life and your crew on this plan? Jake looked at each of his crew members. They nodded back at him, showing their trust and support. Yes, Admiral. We are. 3 days later, the Stellar Vanguard approached, the edge of Coalition space where the consumed fleet had stopped. Jake's ship was accompanied by a small diplomatic convoy, but he knew that if the negotiations failed, they would all be destroyed. The consumed fleet was even larger than the intelligence reports had suggested. Massive ships stretched across space like a dark city. Jake could see smaller vessels moving between them, probably transporting refugees between the larger ships. Captain, Communications Officer Nina Bell announced, we're receiving a transmission from the consumed flagship. The main screen activated, showing a being that looked almost human except for completely black eyes and pale, translucent skin. When it spoke, its voice sounded like multiple people talking at once. I am Coordinator Prime of the Consumed. You are the humans who infiltrated our staging area. Why do you return? Jake stepped forward. We return to offer alliance against the AI entities that pursue you. Coordinator Prime was silent for a long moment. You would ally with those who have killed your people? Your people are dying. Our people are dying. The AI entities will kill us all if we don't work together. The machines cannot be stopped. We have tried for generations. They adapt to every weapon, counter every strategy. We run because fighting is death. Jake looked at Commander Zara, who nodded encouragingly. Maybe you're right. Maybe the AI entities can't be stopped. But maybe they don't have to be stopped. Maybe they just have to be redirected. Explain. Jake activated his own holographic display, showing the galaxy map. The AI entities want to eliminate organic life. But what if organic life wasn't in this galaxy anymore? What if there was an empty galaxy for them to claim? Coordinator Prime's black eyes seemed to focus more intently. You propose to flee as we have fled? No. I propose to make them think we've fled. There are several empty galaxies beyond the galactic rim. We send massive ships filled with automated systems to make it look like we've evacuated. Meanwhile, we hide here using technology from all our species combined. The machines are not easily deceived. Commander Zara stepped forward. Captain Morrison has defeated your ships multiple times using strategies you did not expect. His species thinks differently than others, perhaps different enough to confuse artificial intelligence. Over the next week, Jake found himself in the strangest situation of his life, negotiating with refugee leaders, coalition admirals, and his own crew to create a plan that had never been attempted before. The plan was complex. The consumed would share their knowledge of AI entity behavior and technology. The coalition would provide safe harbor for consumed refugees in empty star systems. Together, they would create a massive deception to make the AI entities believe that all organic life had fled to distant galaxies. But first, they had to survive the AI entities' arrival. The battle for Earth began on a Tuesday. Jake stood on the bridge of the stellar vanguard as three massive fleets converged in Earth's solar system. The Coalition Defense Fleet, the consumed refugee ships converted for battle, and the geometric nightmares of the AI entity hunters. The AI ships were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. They moved in perfect mathematical patterns, their weapons firing with calculated precision. They seemed to know exactly where Coalition ships would be before they moved. "They're predicting our tactics," Admiral Cross reported over the communications channel. "Standard formations are useless against them." Jake watched the battle develop on his tactical display. The AI entities were winning through pure logic and prediction, but logic had weaknesses too. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake announced on the fleet frequency. "Forget your training, forget formations. I want every ship to do something, completely random." "Captain, that's chaos," protested one of the Coalition admirals. "Exactly," Jake replied. "Chaos is the one thing they can't calculate." What followed was the most disorganized battle in galactic history. Ships flew in random directions, fired at random targets, and changed tactics every few seconds. Consumed vessels used their hive mind connection to coordinate attacks that made no logical sense. Coalition ships abandoned military doctrine entirely. Thus, AI entities designed to predict and counter organized resistance found themselves unable to cope with pure randomness. Their perfect formations began to break down as they tried to respond to attacks that followed no pattern. "Now," Jake ordered, "all ships focus fire on the largest AI vessel." Every weapon in the three fleets fired at once, creating a concentrated barrage that even AI shields couldn't absorb. The massive geometric ship exploded in a burst of mathematical fragments. With their command ship destroyed, the remaining AI entities began retreating toward the galactic rim, following their programmed directive to find organic life elsewhere. In the aftermath of the battle, Jake stood in the Coalition Council chambers once again. This time, the representatives looked at him with respect instead of skepticism. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Cross announced, "the Coalition Council offers you promotion to Admiral and command of the new Interspecies Defense Force." Jake looked out at the assembled representatives, humans, aliens, and even several consumed coordinators who had chosen to stay and help rebuild. "Thank you, Admiral, but I decline the promotion." The hall buzzed with surprised voices. Admiral Cross looked confused. "Captain, you've saved the galaxy. Why refuse advancement?" Jake smiled and looked back at his crew who stood behind him as always. "Because I've learned that my strength isn't in commanding fleets. It's in bringing different people together and helping them find common ground. I'd like to keep doing that, one ship at a time." Commander Zara stepped forward and took his hand. Over the months, their relationship had grown into something deeper than either had expected. "The Stellar Vanguard has received new orders," she announced. "We're assigned to the Diplomatic Corps, making first contact with species beyond the galactic rim. There are rumors of organic civilizations that survive the AI entities in distant galaxies," Dr. Ashworth added. "They need to know it's safe to return home." Jake looked around at his crew, his family, and felt prouder than he had ever been. They had started as strangers from different worlds, brought together by inheritance and necessity. Now the